What's up, you guys? Rener, Gracie, Hito and Gracie here at the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Academy World Headquarters in Torrance, California. Last week, a video went viral of an incident that took place November 29th, 2015 in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. The video is of a vicious attack on a police officer. It includes narration of the Brooklyn Park police chief, and it's very difficult to watch, but there's so much takeaway that we have to talk about it.
Yeah, like he said, it's a very graphic video, and it's definitely not suitable for children.
122,
Back on November 29th of 2015, just after midnight, a Brooklyn Park police officer responded to a complaint of loud music coming from a vehicle in northern Brooklyn Park. Upon arrival, he made contact with the only occupant of that car, 25-year-old Lance Carr. The officer determined that Carr had an outstanding felony warrant for his arrest. He asked Carr to step out of the vehicle and place his hands behind his back. Carr then turned and viciously attacked the officer.
Let's go! Let's go.
500 units calling to me.
The other problem was, as the sheriff indicated when we were watching the video, he couldn't get to his radio to call for help. Luckily, he did do what he did because, as you heard, some of the neighbors that I think originally placed that 911 call did call our dispatch, update them that he was involved being viciously assaulted.
2100 on Scott Lane, status. I have a party on the line saying there's an officer there being assaulted.
520, we're all in room. 509, hold the name.
Emergency traffic needs main all others current car.
At one point, you heard the weapon go off. That was an intent by our officer to end this vicious attack upon him. After that was not successful, he actually did something to his weapon to make it useless for both him and the suspect. The fact that that weapon was discharged, the officers that were responding to the scene didn't have that information. It was actually reported, I believe, to dispatch. I don't know that they had time to report that back. So when they pulled up, all they knew was what they saw, is a car on top of the officer. So that's why they went in and used the taser to subdue him. Had they known that he had been his firearm had been taken from him and he attempted to use deadly force, the response may have been different.
You can clearly hear those sirens, but he did not disengage.
We've all been involved in scuffles, and it's usually a scuffle to keep from being apprehended. So as soon as I break away from you, I'm going to run from the scene. This, and I think Officer Hyman quickly learned too, that this was not an attempt to escape. This was an attempt to kill him. And I think that's what brought that much more adrenaline to Officer Hyman.
5122, we've got one in custody. I need north, line fire on the rest now.
We've been working closely with and teaching law enforcement for a long time, and for sure, this was one of the hardest ones to watch.
Yes, and it really touches home because we see that there's some kind of technique being used by the suspect. So
yeah, it makes it even crazier. The suspects, the world is learning, and there's so much takeaway from an incident like this, and by no means is our attempt to kind of extrapolate the lessons and learn from this, any indication that what the officer, Officer Sean Hyman, did in that situation, wrong. He did the best that he could with the tools that he was provided, and he survived, and that's all that matters. So now, what can we take and what can we recycle so that other officers around the world don't have to experience the same situation and can recognize those earliest indicators and have the best chance of success in a similar situation, which they encounter every single day. Which brings us to the most significant and contentious point of this video and of this concept in law enforcement as a whole, which is the vascular neck restraint. The use of what is publicly known as a rear naked choke, which is a misnomer because you're not actually choking the airway, you're plugging and restricting the blood flow to and from the brain. But the vascular neck restraint, which the suspect applied on multiple occasions to the officer, is something that we teach in the GST program. And every time we teach GST, we ask the officers, raise your hand if your department makes or identifies or recognizes the VNR, the vascular neck restraint, as a deadly force technique. Because some departments put it at intermediate force, other departments put it at deadly force. It's each department's decision of where they put it. About 80%, 70 to 80% of hands put it at deadly force. The other ones have it at intermediate force. The ones who put it at deadly force, most of them simply can't even teach it to their officers, which we think is one of the biggest, travesties in law enforcement, is that an officer is not taught this technique. Because our theory is that even if, and it's each department's decision, we believe it's an intermediate force technique, and we think that it's definitely, it's definitely had its controversy over the years, but based on all of our experience, if we had to decide where does this technique live, seeing it applied in the gym, out on the street, all the incidences, based on that, for us, it's intermediate force.
Deadly force is the firearm.
Correct. But some departments, because of fear of political ramifications, they put it at deadly force and say, screw it, we're not going to teach it, and just kind of ignore it altogether. But here's the challenge. Even if you place it at deadly force, officers should understand how to use it. The same way a firearm is deadly force, and yet somehow, and for a good reason, officers have to qualify with their firearms every single year to make sure they're on point and they're using it correctly and effectively because it's an amazing tool that could save lives. Why are they not equally required to know and qualify with this empty hand technique that they might categorize as deadly force or intermediate force? Whatever it is, you should still know it.
Yes. And all I can think about is that firearms malfunction, you drop them, they run out of ammo, they get taken from you. All these things happen, but when it comes to this technique, the VNR, you can't take this from me.
Right.
So in the case that I do lose my firearm, I want nothing more than the knowledge and the technique to have this to possibly save my life.
They have to know it. All police officers should learn this technique. Now here's what's crazy. If you go one step further and say, no, it's not worth the risk, we're not going to teach it at all. Well, we just saw why it has to be taught. If for no other reason, police officers should be taught so they can survive against its application, because the world is learning rear naked chokes. They're watching MMA every single weekend, and they're seeing the quick, easy effectiveness of wrapping someone's neck, holding the arm, sinking it in, and locking the choke.
So you're telling me that learning how to apply the VNR will help their understanding of how to defend it?
Not will help, is required to know how to defend it. And you know what it's comparable to, is there was a time in law enforcement where law enforcement officers were not regularly equipped with high-powered assault rifles. They didn't have those. It wasn't a normal thing in the officer's arsenal and vehicle, and they didn't. Now, almost every police car you drive by has a rifle in there locked up, ready for use just in case. Why? Because the bad guys had access and started using these rifles, so the officers had to match up. My question is, how many officers have to get choked to near death or to near unconsciousness, which would have resulted to the taking of the firearm and potentially killing the officer? How many officers have to get choked, like what we just saw on tape, before the law enforcement and police departments around the country say, no, forget where we categorize it. That move has to be understood the same way high-powered rifles have to be trained and utilized by law enforcement everywhere.
Yes, amazing question. And the same question is, how many suspects, which is the same thing, have to learn the rear naked choke
Before the law enforcement
before the officers start learning and embracing it?
You guys, this is the most important thing. If you're in a department which adamantly resists teaching the vascular neck restraint, we encourage you to adamantly fight for its allowance to be taught, especially if you're in the chair of defensive tactics coordinator, training sergeant, director, or chief of training, assistant chief, whoever you are, wherever you sit, you guys need to make this change so that officers everywhere are equipped with this technique. And we'll leave you with this consideration.
Before that, I like that. Now, even if they can't teach it,
Yes.
they have to at least teach their fellow officers the defense to it.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
So you
Right.
might not teach it to the officers for them to use it, but just teach it as a defense.
Right. Boom, boom, boom. Boom. There's the technique. Perfect.
So, officers, nobody can use this.
Now we're gonna show it one time right now because you guys came here, hung with us for a nice video, good discussion, and we want you guys to see the most basic defense for the rear naked choke or the vascular neck restraint. Check it out whenever you're ready, Hidon. Boom. And he's out. Now, here's what's crazy. I have caught Hidon, myself, Henry Gracie, has caught this Gracie in a fully locked vascular neck restraint in sparring, and I'm like, I got him. 10 times tighter than the way the suspect locked it in the video.
Probably 100 times tighter.
150 times tighter.
Yeah.
Professional wrap on this guy's neck. And because he understands it, he was able to dismantle and escape not some random white belt, Henry Gracie black belt brother on the black belt brother's neck. And trust me when I tell you that my incentive to choke him is very high.
It's almost as high as somebody who wants to take
Yes,
someone's
this-
life and
I was
avoid
like,
going to
because
prison.
I'm the little brother getting beat up for 20, 30, 40 years, 30 years, 32 years, and I'm like trying to return I'm trying to like establish my position in the family, and I couldn't do it. He ripped my hand off, and it traumatized me for many years because his defense was so legit.
Do it again so they can...
No, they're gonna rewind and watch it again, or they're gonna come to do GST. But more importantly,
Okay.
I want to explain something. Imagine if I was gonna tie this around Hidon's neck. Boom. This belt. One, boom, boom. And I just do a bunch of crazy knots, like some weird positions. Boom, 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 boom. You guys, imagine if Hidon had 6 seconds to untie the knot that is around his neck, because after that he will go unconscious. Now, fortunately, it's loose because I love him and I care. Imagine if he had 6 seconds to untie this knot. How helpful would it have been for Hidon to have watched me tie the knot behind his neck?
It would be very helpful.
It would be everything.
Yes.
So we have officers all over the country who are essentially exposed and potentially to be wrapped and apprehended and squeezed by suspects who are learning these techniques, but yet the officers are not allowed to see how the knot is tied because departments don't teach it. You cannot defend against that which you do not understand.
What did you just say?
You cannot defend against that which you do not understand. You have to know how the knot is tied in order to untie the knot quickly, especially when your life is on the line. You guys, GracieSurvivalTactics.com. We teach these techniques. We teach the offense. We teach the defense. It's up to the department to decide what they take home, what they share. But we give it all. Nothing is held back. Survival skills on the highest level. We'd love to see you guys there. We have courses coming up in Washington, Virginia, Texas, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, California, everywhere. And some of them are at departments where they say, no, we're not going to send you. It's not going to happen.
No.
Or you're a lower level officer where you're not on the DT staff, so you can't decide what you learn and where you learn it.
Listen, it's your responsibility to go out there and learn on your own. Forget the department, you do it for you.
If it's your life on the line, it's your obligation to find the information. Now, the entire GST course for those who can't get to the live training is on GracieUniversity.com. You have to be a law enforcement officer to access it, but definitely officers everywhere are learning this stuff on their own, practicing with a buddy, and just making sure that they're ready. So that when their call comes, their routine call, which doesn't exist, happens, they're 100% prepared to the maximum capability. That's it, my friends. We'd love to see you on the mat. We hope this information, this discussion really, woke up a few people. And I'll tell you right now that, crimes happen against law enforcement every single day. And in our opinion, one of the biggest crimes is the overgeneralization of law enforcement training. To think that all law enforcement officers are trained the same and that they all have these skills, it's not. And the officers on the streets are the ones who suffer from the lack of training provided by the departments. And the reasons why they don't get the training, that goes into a whole nother can of worms, which we don't feel like discussing publicly. But the fact is, it's the departments. choice to provide or not to provide this type of life-saving information. So we'll see you on the mat. Aren't you want to take that thing off your neck?
I would love to. My department hasn't taught me how.
We would like to sponsor Officer Hyman to participate in the 5-day Gracie Survival Tactics course. Anyone with direct information to Officer Hyman, please inform him of the sponsorship opportunity. We would really appreciate it, and I'm sure he will as well. The rest of you guys, find a certified training center, learn jiu-jitsu, learn how to escape chokes. It'll save your life. GracieUniversity.com. It's all there.